Hi, so today I'm going to read you a comment that I received, and it's not something that I necessarily take personally. I don't take the comment against me personally. What I don't like is the fact that this attitude exists in the world, that there are people out there that actually think this way, because there was a time in my life where I used to think this way, and it was something that I didn't realize until I had gotten a decent amount into my life, was a very, very self-destructive and non-productive way of thinking. And it's something that's going to keep a lot of the people who watch this channel behind if you don't get this kind of thinking in check early on. So I thought that I would read this comment because I think that it's something that people may actually learn from. Now, just to put it into context, I film every board repair I do, and I upload all the board repairs that I think somebody can actually learn something from. And that includes board repairs where I do something very stupid. So, as I've shown in many videos in the past, there are current sensing resistors prior to the ISL 6259 chip. And usually when those are blown, there's a 99.9% chance that the ISL is destroyed. Sometimes they get destroyed from water and the ISL is actually fine, like this much of the time. But most of the time the ISL 6259 shorts in the ground. Now, I do a lot of these board repairs. I'm the one doing all these board repairs, and sometimes you just do something pretty damn stupid. And in this video, I remember saying, look, the resistors are just fine. And I'm saying that as the resistors are literally blowing up. They're blowing up and exploding in the microscope, and it's very obvious. And eventually, at the end of the video, it was like a half-hour video, I wind up fixing the board. But that was still a dumb thing that I did. I replaced the resistors and let them blow again. So I thought I would read this particular comment, because again, there's something to learn from it. Sorry, Luis, but you are really a little dumb. I'm guessing that's supposed to say dumb. Look at this circuit. What is able to burn 10 ohm resistors if not short into IC? Of course, it could be breakdown capacitor, but what is it able to do it? Over voltage. But first, of high voltage there, current shunt resistor, TRO MOSFET to ground is not probably. Second, if you has over voltage there, you would see a lot of damage in other parts of charge circuit. IC would be first. Now, that's not really the important part. The important part is the one coming up. And you sit there enjoying nice microscope, JBC, etc. And I am collecting money on my first scope another year, just because you are born in better place. Life is a bitch. Anyway, I respect you, and big thumbs up to your videos. I mean only injustice. Knowledge is not always success, which is just sad. And the reason I put the middle finger up is not because I'm taking it personally, but because there's this one saying that this guy Dino had, and he's another one that I want to add to this series of interviews. So I actually lined up an interview with Michael Carvin that I'm going to be having at the end of June. I'm going to have a lot of questions for him, and I think you're going to learn a lot from getting to talk to him. Or at least hear me talk to him. I want to line up an interview with this guy named Dino because he had this saying that was a great saying. And he was this like really big, 6'5", 250-pound, muscular guy in his mid-late 40s. Had a bit of a criminal background. We got along very well, though. And he would say, man, if you're going to be the bitch, you should be the whole bitch. And the whole idea there was that if you felt a certain way, you shouldn't kind of try to say, oh, I'm going to deal with that person even though I hate them, or that person disrespected me, but I'm going to pretend that I respect them back just because I want something out of them. That if you feel a certain way, then you should act on it. Or if you're going to do something like a bitch, then at the very least you should be, as he used to say, again, not the nicest way to say it, be the whole bitch. Ain't no half bitch here. He was from New Orleans. He was a really funny guy. So you can't really say, no, you know, it's sad that you have things that I don't when I know more than you, but I respect you. You either do or you don't. So the one thing here that's kind of lame is the whole I respect you part, which is bullshit. But the real part here that's bullshit, and you sit there enjoying nice microscope, JBC, etc. And I am collecting money on first scope another year just because you born in better place. Life is a bitch. Life is indeed a bitch, and I can assure you that it's a bitch almost regardless of where you're born. One of the people that I used to work with came from a country in Eastern Europe, and it's a country that just hasn't had a good economy for the last 20 or 30 years. There wasn't a lot of opportunity there, and he knew there wasn't a lot of opportunity there, so he moved here. He was, he had the skill set required to be a senior level network administrator and make good money and do stuff back home. When he moved here, he knew nobody. He had no American education. He had no real American friends. He didn't understand how anything worked here. And he started off fresh here with nothing. He was sleeping in this basement with these crappy wooden floorboards for weeks before he found a real apartment. This person who was a high-level network administrator who can make good money doing that stuff came here and he couldn't find a job immediately doing that. So you know what he did? He fucking moved couches. He painted. He did construction work. He helped people move out of their apartment. He did all this type of low-level bullshit because he knew that that was what would be needed for him to have a better life and to move somewhere else. I didn't start out with a lot. My dad and I moved away when I was 17 years old. A few years later, I moved away from there. When I started this business, I had $268 left in my pocket after I spent 2 years working at a place that went out of business that paid below minimum wage. $268. Now, say what you want about living in nice places versus not living in nice places. I want you to take a look on Craigslist for real estate in Manhattan, for real estate in Brooklyn, and tell me what you can buy with $268. If you look at what the rent is here compared to anywhere else, let me tell you that opening a store here is not exactly the easiest thing in the world. I busted my ass for several years, and when I finally found a place that I thought was worthwhile, I wound up running this huge Ponzi scheme where I pretty much, I remember posting all these motherboard repair services very much below cost. Well, I mean, what is cost really when it's, resistors and whatnot? But I posted a lot of services very much below cost, and I sold them. And then when the person bought it, the money was held by PayPal because it was some kind of new eBay account. So what I did is I would ship them a postcard via first-class mail, which had tracking for $1.75, whatever it was at the time. And the postcard would explain the instructions, how we do business, what to expect, what the warranty is, how we fix the boards, all that silly shit, right? All of that was explained in the postcard. And the customer would receive the postcard and they'd feel good about it. PayPal and eBay would see that I shipped something and released my money. I sold something like 100 or 200 board repair services, and I used that money to pay my first, my last, and my deposit on a retail space. Now, you may wonder, well, what did you do after that? Because obviously you would have to make new money from new repairs to pay for the rent and the upkeep and whatnot, because you weren't getting paid off of those 100 or 200 repairs. You're right. That's why I was working 12 or 14 or 16 hours a day every single fucking day for years with no vacation in the beginning. The reason is because I saw something I wanted and I went for it. I saw what I wanted. I knew that I would be torturing myself. I knew that it was a very high likelihood of failure. I knew what I was doing seemed absolutely ridiculous to every single person I explained it to at the time. But I went for it anyway. I want you to think about the mentality that it takes for somebody who is well respected in their field to leave their country, start over in a new country with no money where they don't know anybody, sleep on nasty floorboards in a fucking basement that creak, and become a moving person for several years just because they want new opportunity. Most people are going to think that that person is nuts, but that's what immigrants all around the world do every single day when they decide that where they live doesn't have the opportunity that they want. They don't go around going, oh, I'm a senior level person. I have so much knowledge. I'm so good at my job, but I just can't make any money because I don't have the luck of other people. Cry, Clinton. Yes, cry, Clinton. Cry for the person on the other side of the camera. They don't cry like the little cat does. They deal with it. They find a way around it, and they find a way to get what it is they want, even if it requires risk, hard work, determination, dealing with the unknown, and being called an idiot by every single person they know. I have been called an idiot by every single person that I know for most of the things that I've tried to do over the course of my natural life. And a lot of those people will look at where I am now, and the luxuries I have now, and where I started, and they'll go, that's pretty cool. Or they just won't say anything at all because a lot of the nasty things they had to say, it just doesn't add up when they're making half what I do in a job that they're miserable in, and I get to do what I want and go where I want and enjoy life the way that I want right now. But it's not something that you get to fucking start with. Not everybody gets to start out with every single resource in the world. Not everybody starts out with all the money in the world. Not everybody gets to start out with great credit. Not everybody gets to start out with an amazing business loan or great partners that are going to help you with every single little thing that you're doing. A lot of people start out at the bottom, and they have to work their way up to the top. And the people who are successful, you're right, it's not necessarily about knowledge. I'm not the smartest guy. I'm not the best at what I do. what I do, but when I screw something up, when I fuck something up, when something doesn't go the way that I want, do I sit there and just figure it out and fix the problem? Or do I cry about it? Do I sit there and go, I did something pretty fucking dumb right there. Oh, I guess that means I can't do this. I'm gonna go home. I guess I'm not good at what I do. I guess I shouldn't be doing this for a living. It's not fair. Why wasn't I born smarter? It's not... Or do I just sit there and figure it out and fix the fucking problem? The people who are successful are not always the people with the 190 or the 210 or the 250 IQ. They're not the Mensa people. They're not the biggest and the strongest people. They're the people that realize that if I put in work, that I will get something out of it. And that when I encounter problems over the course of my work, that I am going to fucking fix them. If you want to talk about unfair, can you understand the frustration that an individual may have when they work in this industry doing what I do? And they have hands that are not steady and a brain that can't keep a train of thought going more than about 90 seconds before it forgets. I assure you, there are many things that are very frustrating, but if you let them get to you and you use them as excuses as to why you cannot accomplish something, you will always find a way to be right. People who are successful realize that they are human like everybody else, that they have flaws like everybody else, and that they can overcome those flaws through hard work and determination and not getting down on themselves. And this here is a clear example of somebody who is very obviously looking for an excuse to get down on themselves. Injustice. Knowledge is not always success, which is just sad. Life is a bitch. That guy was born in a better place. I'm not even done paying off my microscope. I spent $7,300 on a Xiaomi ZM R6200C. Apple decided to recall 3 fucking machines that had GPU issues and extend the warranty for 1.5 years right after I bought that thing. Do you think I paid off my Xiaomi ZM R6200? Do you think I'm making any money off of the 30 chips that I still have sitting in a spool, the half of which are probably fucking fake since they came from crappy vendors in China? Do you think I'm making my money back on that? No. Do you think I got a lot of the money back when Rossmann Supply failed? No. There are things that I've done that have failed, but when I fail, I just keep on keeping on. There are a lot of people that if they realize that they spent $7,300 on a big paperweight that they can't make good money off of, they'd internalize that. They would become sad about that. They would allow that to get to them. And it's that mentality that is going to screw them out of being able to do anything for themselves. And further, this envious mentality is something that gets you nowhere. And I know as somebody who had the envious mentality, I grew up in a household where people screamed at each other nonstop. I would look at the other people that went home and their parents would just say, oh, how was your day? Oh, how was school? Oh, did you go, how was your baseball game? I came home 12, 15 hours a day from people who were mentally ill. Other kids had parents who had money, or at least a middle class living. I didn't have that. Other kids were able to focus in school. I couldn't focus in school, so I failed in high school, and I failed in college, and I left college. Other kids were athletic, were putting a little bit of practice in. I was 103 pounds at this height at 17 years old. I assure you, I know what it is like to feel that life isn't fair. I know what it's like to look at the person who lives next door and go, man, I know why my life isn't what it is. I know why it is not as good as it's supposed to be. Because I didn't start out with all the shit that motherfucker had. But as long as you're looking at what that motherfucker had, you're not looking at what you have. I have a brain. It may not work as well as everybody else's. It may not be able to remember as well as everybody else's. It may not be able to keep a steady hand when I want to run a wire the same way that everybody else's does. But it works. It has basic function, and there are things that it can do. I may not be as fit as other people. I may not have started with as much money as other people. But every day I wake up and I can walk, and I can think, and I can speak, and I can breathe, which is more than I can say for a lot of people, which is what motivates me to just keep on keeping on. Every single time I screw something up, when I screw something up beyond any type of ability to repair the damage that I've done, where I can only just try to think about damage control, I just think to myself, am I still breathing? Am I still here? Can I still feel my face? As long as I'm still here, there's an opportunity tomorrow to fix whatever I did wrong. There's an opportunity for me to try again. There's always an opportunity for do better. Just like that guy that I used to work with that decided, I'm going to leave my country where I am respected and good at my job to fucking paint and move couches and live in floorboards. That guy has a better job than I do now. And the reason he has a better job than I do now, because while he was sleeping on the floorboards, He wasn't thinking about the people next door that had it better than him. He wasn't thinking about the people in the luxury apartments just 2 blocks down the road. He wasn't thinking about how unfair it was for the people who just so happened to already been born into a country that had a better economy than his country. He wasn't thinking about that. The only thing that he thought about every single day was bettering himself. What can I do to better myself? What can I do to better my position? What can I do to increase my knowledge? What can I do to increase my bank account? How can I be of service to other people? How can I be of service to as many other people as possible? What value do I have that can be contributed to the world? And how can I contribute to the world in a manner in which that will encourage others to contribute back to me? Do you know why you're still paying off your microscope a year after you bought it? Because you have the mentality, you have that sad sack mentality where when something doesn't go the way you want, you think that that's just the way the world is supposed to be. You think, and you kind of limit yourself. It's kind of like there's this one guy who said something to me a couple of years ago that really stuck with me. It was something along the lines of, I think you're finally starting to realize that you are inside of a fish bowl that is inside of, or a fish tank that is inside of the ocean. So you've gotten to the top of your fish tank, but you don't realize that there's an entire ocean out there for you. And now it's your responsibility not to stay at the top of the fish tank, it's your responsibility to find your way out into the ocean. And I don't think you know how to find your way into the ocean. You're giving me all the excuses. I wasn't born in the ocean. I can't see the ocean. You gotta find the ocean, and you're gonna make the ocean for yourself. Nobody's gonna make the ocean for you. The only thing that's stopping you from moving to where I live is you probably don't want to sleep in a basement on crappy floorboards. You don't want to move to a place where you don't know anybody. You don't want to move to a place where you may not know the language as well as everybody there. You don't want to move to a place where you're uncertain about your income, where you're uncertain about where you're going to live, where you're uncertain about who is going to be your friend, when you're uncertain about where you're going to work. But if you got rid of that fear of that uncertainty, then you would have the exact same opportunities that I have available right now. Because this is an amazing place. For all the shit I have to say about New York is the land of opportunity. I am a store owner. I have several employees. I have a YouTube channel that's damn near 100,000 subscribers, and I am good at what I do. And I started with $268 in my pocket. Ain't no bank giving me a loan. I made this happen for myself. And it's because while the rest of the world was out there telling me why what I was doing was bullshit, I was out there continuing to do what I do. And if you let fear cripple you, if you let that fear that other people are right about all the things that you're doing wrong, if you let that envy, that jealousy, that misery, when you look at what other people have that you don't get to you, you are going to wallow in that misery for the rest of your fucking life. Take it from somebody who had that exact same feeling of envy, that exact same feeling of jealousy, that exact same feeling of irritation. When I knew that I knew more than somebody else, or that I was more of a caring and generous person than that person, or a harder worker than that person, and they just had everything handed to them. Trust me, it's a poisonous fucking feeling to keep inside, and it's a poisonous feeling to base your life on. So don't do it. You just scratched my chair. Barry? Barry? Blackberry? Did you scratch my chair? You did scratch the chair. They all heard that. All the people on the YouTube. Blackberry? Blackberry? Why would you scratch my chair, girl? Aren't I nice to you? Aren't you a good little kitty? Who's my good little kitty? And a lot of those people that I used to be jealous and envy of, they were people that wouldn't be nice to a little kitty like this one. They would be mean to a little kitty like this one. Mr. Clinton, my other cat, he belonged to this girl that came from a rich family in upstate New York. And she threw him away. She threw him away in the middle of winter. He was 2 fucking months old. Because she didn't want a cat that meowed a lot, and Mr. Clinton meowed a lot. They lived in a house that had... my apartment's pretty big. It's like 1,100 square feet, 70 or 80 feet long, 25-foot ceilings. And they lived in a house that had about 5 rooms that were the size of this. That's mean. I still remember having that poisonous mentality 7 years ago when I got Mr. Clinton. I just remember meeting that girl and like just looking at all the opportunity and everything available to her. And just realizing that you're the type of person that's going to take a baby kitten and throw it away in 9-degree weather in the middle of winter with 40-mile-an-hour winds. I remember having that mentality. You don't deserve success. I do. You don't deserve money and opportunity. I do. You don't deserve a kitty. I do. And the last part I think is true, but the first two, again, you got to get out of that mindset. That mindset will poison your fucking life. It will ruin you. It will remove any ability that you have to accomplish anything. Because there was this one teacher that I had about 7 years ago, 8 years ago. And I remember one of the things that he said, the human mind is capable of switching between what it's thinking about millions of times in a second. But we can only think about one thing at a time. You can switch millions of times a second, but you can only think of one thing at a time. How much time are you spending thinking about what other people have that you don't? And how much of that time could you have spent bettering yourself? Thinking of the opportunities that could be available to you. It's just something to think about. And the reason that I am kind of strict in this video is because I've lived that mindset. I know that it is poisonous. I know that it's garbage. I know that it gets you nowhere. I would be far ahead of where I am in life right now if I had gotten rid of that mindset a lot sooner. And I know it's easy to get stuck in, because we don't live in a fair world. Unless you're a cat named Blackberry. Who's my girl? Ah, you shed so much. Who's a good kitty? Good girl, Nuzzle. Who's a good kitty? Good girl. I have the world's cutest kitten.